We have another Carcano rifle variation here to go over. I just picked this up this morning. I just bought it this morning from a gentleman. People call this the M38 Cavalry Carbine with the folding bayonet, that 8mm Mauser conversion. That's what I've seen this particular gun called. It is a Carcano converted to 8mm Mauser. I don't know if it was an M30, it's either an M38 or an M3891 Cavalry Carbine with the folding bayonet that has been converted. Don't know much about it, very strange story. How I come across it, I put an ad out online to buy Carcano rifles because I was trying to pick up some to finish up my video, finish up the collection. I wanted at least one with a bayonet so we could look at it, and some of the later manufactured ones with the fixed sights. As I've been finding out, the reason people really don't shoot these much, they're accurate, they work, but it's a difficult gun to get used to. You got to practice a lot with it. But anyway, getting back to this thing. So a guy calls me up and says, I got some Carcanos I want to sell. And as usual with a lot of these ads, it's weird. Well, I got 3. I said, all right, how much you want for all 3 of them? I'll come down and look at them. Well, I don't know. I said, can you send me pictures? No, I don't know how to do that. He goes, one's got a folding bayonet. So I figure, okay, he's going to have a little Cavalry Carbine with a folding bayonet. If worse comes to worse, I'll buy that one. And he's telling me, well, they're all 8mm, they're all 8mm. And I'm like, he just didn't know the caliber. When I go over there, that's what he had. It's an 8mm converter. Now, as we know, the Italians had, basically a long rifle, a carbine called a Troop Special, and a Cavalry Carbine. That's what the M1891 system started off with. And that went through until about 1938. In 1938, the Italians decided they were going to change the caliber, which they just made a slightly larger bullet, 7.35. They put fixed sights, tried to modernize it, and in that series they made a what they call the short rifle with a strange bayonet that you can attach and fold down, or take it off the gun, detach it, put it in the sheath, or you can just put it on there and fold it over. So you had the M38 short rifle, you had the M38 Cavalry Carbine, and I believe they did make like a short, which was kind of odd, like a Troop Special. It looks just like a Troop Special, TS. And the barrel's like 2 or 3 inches shorter, so why they did it, I don't know. They decided they don't like the cartridge. They dropped it. Some of the parts, I guess, were, for the short rifles, were converted back into 6.5. They just put 6.5 barrels on them. So you have your M38 91 designating a 6.5 caliber short rifle. And they made the carbines with the fixed sight and Troop Specials, again in 6.5. And for some odd reason they decided to manufacture a 41 long rifle. Now when it comes to conversions of these guns, there's a lot of confusion, especially this gun. This gun's got a strange tale to it. I've looked this up online and I've heard all kinds of weird rumors. I don't know if the Italians converted some of their guns to 8mm. I do remember years ago that there were 8mm conversions. They were rare. They told you not to fire them. And I don't know if the Italian army did it. I don't know how they did the conversion. Then they say that in the last days of the war, the Germans, because I guess when the Italians surrendered during the invasion of Italy, the Germans confiscated their allies' weapons and shot all the soldiers. So the Germans had to supply these captured Italian weapons. This came about when the Italian government surrendered during the invasion of Italy and Germany turned on its ally. And then Mussolini was a fugitive and all this other stuff. But the Germans ended up with stockpiles of Carcanos and ammo, or captured weapons. So towards the end of the war, the Germans took these rifles. They were desperate, and they were getting anything in the street and arming everybody during the invasion of Germany, or the advance through it. So the Germans converted some of the Carcanos. There's one or two companies that did it to 8mm. There was two conversions. One was a single shot where the magazine would be plugged, and the other generally has an S stamped on the receiver. Okay? This rifle does not. And what I believe this rifle is this rifle was converted to 8mm after the war. Maybe not by the Germans, could have been the French, could have been anybody. Okay, a lot of speculations. This was not uncommon. The period in history after World War II ended, there was still a lot of fighting going on in the world. There was rebellion in the Baltic states and Poland against Soviet Russia taking over the countries. There was the formation of the State of Israel, which in the listing, some of these guns show up converted to 8mm, which will have the Star of David on there as Israeli stampings. Egypt was being, and a lot of these countries would make what we call sterile weapons. And what it is, it's a newly manufactured weapon, but doesn't have the markings. It could be a KR-98, and some of these have showed up. Yet other than the serial number, there was no other marking on the gun. Okay? There were P38s, had serial numbers and a little like asterisk on the inside of the frame, and they were parkerized. They were called Gray Ghosts. These appeared in the late 50s, early 60s. So you will find examples of surplus weapons that are sterile. In other words, they have no country of origin, God knows who made them. Some were made in France, and it leads to this gun here, where it was made. Now we'll take a close look at it, but I believe this gun was manufactured post-war. It was made after the end of World War II. It was Carcano converted. Now with the receiver, it could have been anything, okay? I don't know if this is a new stock or they just sanded it down, but we'll go over the points. But this gun was rebarreled, I believe, in 8mm Mauser. Now another thing about these 8mm conversions is the clips. The Mauser 88 clips, the in-block clips don't work. So you got to modify a Carcano clip, which I haven't done yet. But again, when you go on the forums, all these armchair experts, well, there was one company that made these clips with that for the ammo, and they're extremely rare and you never see them. They ain't got no photographs of it or nothing. And then some people say, well, you just modify a standard Carcano clip and it'll work. So I don't know about that yet, and I didn't even know I was getting this gun. So we'll take a look. I have the other Cavalry Carbine minus the bayonet here, and I'll show you some of the major indicators that you can spot one of these conversions right off, and we'll take a look at it. Okay, first thing that's a dead giveaway on any of these converted guns is they'll have these, you see like these little washers here. What this is, and like we see them on the most in the gun, this is added. What it is, it's a recoil lug, a metal lug that they screw in to the stock, and there'll be a metal bar that runs up, and if you look, it'll coincide to where the tab under the receiver and also here. So when the gun recoils, it won't split the stock. Another thing also is if you look at the upper part of the receiver as compared to a regular 6.5 Carcano, they mill out this little shape like on the 88 commission rifles. This is milled in for the pointed 8mm bullet. So that's another dead giveaway. Okay, and now the guy had a cut down one that looked like a 38 short rifle. Had the fixed sight, and the fixed sight is marked 7 point, should be 9.2, but it's 7.9. Some will say 7.92. And that stock, somebody tried filling it in after they sanded it, only had one lug, which was kind of curious to me. I passed on the gun. I didn't want to cut down gun. So also on this conversion, okay, so you got that there, and you got the lugs. And I think that's just about on all of them. I've seen some that they say are converted to 8mm and do not have the lugs. I don't know if they just stuck that in another Carcano stock or not. We'll pull the two of these apart and look at the stocks and that, see if they're different. But basically, it's Carcano is a Carcano. The action, the rifle's the same. And another thing, they said that these were used for training in the Middle East. So a lot of these guns are just used as drill rifles, and the firing pins would be snipped or whatever. This firing pin was broken off, so I had to get one out of another gun just to get it back together, but I'm going to have to get a firing pin for it. And it is your Cavalry carbine, folding bayonet. And another thing I noticed was quite odd is the front sight blade moves in there freely. That's going to have to be fixed up. And this does have import mark on the side, so this was brought in. What the man told me in the story was he bought a case of these when he was a gun dealer. He used to have a gun shop, and he kept this one and a couple others. And out of the case, whatever was in a case or the shipment, this was the only one with a folding bayonet, so they're kind of odd. I think they converted a lot of the short rifles, but I don't think a lot of these folding bayonet cavalry carbines got done. We'll go over on the other side and take a look at some marking. Now the reason I keep using the word sterile is if you look, this barrel looks, that's machining marks, those little lines. There's no stampings other than a serial number here on the top. And the receiver, everything is devoid. I think on the bottom of the bolt there is a stamp, but it's an Italian stamp that I find. And somewhere on one of these parts, oh, right there, is a stamp of some sort. But I think that's the manufacturer, the Italian manufacturer of that part. Now the stock looks sanded down. It doesn't have the Italian cartouche in it, but the serial number does match the rifle. So it was probably a gun that was in storage, taken, worked, reworked, converted, rebarreled, and you know, it's got the butt plate trap, and there is a two-section cleaning rod in there. And that's about it. There's no other markings other than I went online and somebody we're talking about this gun, and it sold at an auction, and if you look, let's try to get this thing to focus, on the bottom of the bayonet, right here, this is a stamp here. It's the only other mark I found. And what it looks like is a lion standing up, turning his back next to a shield or a plant or something, which is reminiscent of the Czechoslovakian lion, which is kind of odd. I don't know if it's just maybe the blade maker who made the bayonet blades, that's their company stamp or something. I don't know. Very unusual. Leads to all kinds of wild speculation and stuff. But I believe this was a post-war conversion of a gun. It was sold like kind of on the black market, kind of political intrigue. In other words, you want to support somebody but don't want to do it overtly, so you kind of do it covertly using a weapon designed by, you know, another country. So I kind of believe that's what this gun is. I mean, there's all kinds of wild speculations that these were converted to be used with the Africa Corps and on the Russian front and everything else, but I really believe this is a post-war conversion of this of the rifle. that from what they say, with the firing pin being broke, the one guy's opinion, this was used as a drill rifle in the Middle East. Now, since I didn't have another carbine, we'll use this one. This here's, there's an early latch type, and then there's this push button type release on the bayonet. What you basically do is you push in and then pull backwards on the bayonet. See, it slides back and out. Pull backwards, swing the bayonet around, and then push forward. And it locks in place. Now you have your carbine with the Cavalry carbine with the bayonet extended. To replace it again, push the button in, pull it out, rotate it around, back down into stock, and push it back to lock. Pretty interesting thing. So that's about it, but like I said, in my opinion, I believe this is a post-war modification. They say that they could have been sent to the Middle East as drill rifles. Israelis used them for a while because people were sneaking arms in to support the state of Israel when it was formed in the late 40s. They were taking anything they can get their hands on to defend themselves. So it's a unique gun and strange, but people create these stories, and which stories, the rarity and everything else, I guess they're hard to find. They're not common like this, but it doesn't warrant some of the prices that you get at some auctions. Now I'm going to disassemble this one and my 6.5 Cavalry carbine. We'll take a look at them side by side disassembled, see if there's any differences. Okay, with our guns disassembled, looking at it, here's the 8mm conversion, and here's the 6.5, the original style. Now I measured the barrel contours. They're all the same, so it's the same barrel blank, just this one's an 8mm. I did check the headspace on it. It's kind of tight on the go gauge. No go won't go in, so that's good. Now, so the barrel's not any different. It's just chambered different. We'll flip them over and look. And on the 8mm, I think they milled this out wider for the 8mm cartridge. Because when you compare it, see the 6.5 looks a little narrower. So they didn't really modify much, maybe then extend this out for the longer cartridge. And you see the Italian ones in there. This one here looks like they had a process where they would use machines to set these barrels, set it up. That looks like it was clamped and then cranked in there, then probably head spaced as it went along. Triggers are the same, still all Carcano, so no modifications there. Now when we go to the magazine group here, this is the 8mm conversion here. Outwardly no different, you know, just like this one here, the original. Other than this one's bent. This is that, I told you that combat mount is bent a little. The only thing different that I can see is the hook for the clip. This is the original one, this is the modified one. You can see it's been ground. So I don't know much about the clips or how this, what was used as a clip in there, but it looks like that hook is more pronounced and that is compared to the original 6.5. Now as for the stocks, okay, we'll get stock side by side. Here's the 8mm conversion and the original. They're about identical, you know, in their inlay. Okay, lightning groove. Now, the only thing different is you see the Italian stock does have in it, you can't see there's no bolt, a reinforcement area. And what that is that's where the part of the receiver, this here, where the bolt goes in, this will lock in there. And basically it's a recoil lug is what it's called. And what it does is when the gun recoils, it doesn't put the stress right on the wood. Now this one looks the same, but I think what they do with these bolts is they add another, it would be a metal thing that goes against the screw. It's lower than this. Because like on this one here, you'd have to look down in there, and what that does is that puts reinforcement. So even with this here, when the gun recoils, this piece absorbs some of it, but you have two other reinforcements here and here, which go up against the bolts in the receiver. Here I'll show you, I put the bolts back in the receiver. You got the one thing that's in there already, that metal part that'll lock into here. Where them screws that go through the stock, they put another metal bar that'll engage this screw in the stock about right there, and on this one back here. So your screws aren't bashing your stock, they're supported, you know, here and here and here. So it's actually supported in three places, where the stock normally, that recoil inlay would only support it here, but you're adding with those bolts support against these screws that hold the action together. So that's what the purpose of those things are. But other than that, you know, it looks like the same butt plate. Actually, it looks like the stock was just sanded down and refinished. That's about all. They're identical to each other. So that's the comparison of the conversion. And hopefully once I do some more research on the clips and that, we'll get out and try to fire this. We'll do some cast bullets. I ain't going full bore with military loads with that until I check it out. And also, by the way, the bore is excellent on it. It's like mint, never been fired. So maybe that tells you something. Alright, that's my take on this. Probably have some more. If I get more information on it, I'll post some more videos. Okay.